I say this with nothing but love for this country and all of its wildlife, but Australian animals are, collectively, some of the most overhyped and, quite frankly, underwhelming on the planet. This is especially so in the creepy crawly department. A rather sizable portion of this country's critters are essentially just smaller, weaker versions of something that exists overseas. And by overseas, I mean Asia or South America, like 90% of the time. Yet in spite of the fact that even our biggest and baddest creepy crawlies would be scarcely more than snacks for some of their counterparts elsewhere in the world, it is Australia that holds the reputation for being a land filled with giant, scary bugs. Australian animals almost universally fall far short of their notoriety, sometimes pathetically so, and few groups exemplify this trend more than the spiders. Like, seriously, going off the way people talk on the internet, you'd think Australia is the only place in the world where spiders exist. And look, I'd be the last person to deny that this country does host some incredibly fascinating spiders. After all, if I wasn't at least somewhat impressed by our arachnid friends, well, I wouldn't have made a fucking YouTube channel about them. But stories about Australian spiders as big as dinner plates? Come on. Save the overblown measurements for when you're in bed. At least then there's a chance they'll lead to something productive. Now let's dive right into a tier list of some of Australia's more noteworthy spiders. I'll say right now that I'll be sticking to groups that I have actually filmed and encountered. 1, to keep as much of the footage original as possible, and 2, so I can draw a little from my own experience as opposed to regurgitating a bunch of articles. It's also worth adding that tier lists, by their very nature, will pretty much always have an element of subjectivity to them, and I'll be taking a somewhat arbitrary approach to the whole thing. So take this video as less of an objective ranking exercise, and more of a, trendy way to present information about various spiders from down under. As appears customary for tier lists, we'll start at the bottom. And I'm sure any long-term subscribers to this channel will know exactly which spider is going to be copying the wooden spoon. But for any new viewers, it may come as a bit of a surprise. Taking the bottom spot are none other than Australia's most notorious spiders, the atracids, or funnel webs, or funnel websites if you're my #1 fan. Many Aussies, especially in conversation with foreigners, love to embellish the size and deadliness of our country's spiders as part of what I can only presume is some sort of pissing contest, as if to appear tough and badass for living alongside such creatures. Because as we all know, only the toughest of the tough and the bravest of the brave are able to survive in a developed country with one of the highest life expectancies on Earth. And the funnel webs are, unsurprisingly, the subjects of countless terrifying tales told by Australians who have nothing better to do than scare foreigners on the internet. Make no mistake, funnel webs do have a medically significant venom, at least to primates like humans. But there's only so much relevance that can have when the vast majority of these spiders will live out their lives without ever encountering the only animal on the continent that their venom happens to be especially potent against. So in their natural habitat, the venom of funnel webs doesn't appear to be much more of an asset than the venom of any old spider. Certainly, many other spiders with much weaker venom are still perfectly capable of hunting the same prey as funnel webs. On top of that, funnel webs are beset with numerous weaknesses. For one, they are very vulnerable to desiccation, which greatly restricts their range, largely confining them to secluded pockets of cool, moist forest. Their mobility is also abysmal. They cannot jump, they can barely climb, and on the rare occasions that they do perform something that could be loosely described as physical activity, they'll tire out quicker than most of the lazy shits I coach. In short, Australia's most feared spider lives a pretty underwhelming life. Spend most of your time hiding in a burrow, grab the occasional bug that stumbles by, and probably get eaten by centipedes sooner or later. That, combined with the fact that their sole notable standout feature is something that is pretty much completely irrelevant in their natural habitat, warrants a placement in D tier. Funnel webs are the only spiders I'll be putting in D tier, partially because they're so fat that I don't think I can fit anything else on the same rank. So now let's move up into C tier. We'll start with a group of spiders that are similar to the funnel webs in many aspects, and can often be found living in the same habitats, the trapdoor spiders. Like funnel webs, trapdoor spiders are obligate ambush predators that are incapable of pursuing their prey over any meaningful distance, instead relying on short bursts of speed to capture any unwary victims that venture too close to their dwellings. They share many of the same shortcomings as funnel webs, namely poor mobility and being highly susceptible to desiccation. They are also extremely slow-growing, long-lived spiders, with females of some species capable of living for over 30 years, which is something of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, they can go through many breeding cycles over the course of their long lives, meaning that the reproductive success of any one individual does not hinge on a single breeding season, as is the case for many spiders with much briefer lives. However, the borderline glacial growth rate of these spiders means that they spend much more time as tiny, relatively defenseless juveniles. And on a broader scale, recovering from any loss in population is a slow process, and this, combined with their sedentary habits, makes trapdoor spiders especially vulnerable to habitat destruction. However, many also possess a key asset. It's the group's namesake feature, a sturdy lid that covers the entrance of their burrow. This not only protects them from any visitors, well-wishers, or distant relations, but serves as a counter to a major weakness that they share with funnel webs, their vulnerability to desiccation. A lidded burrow, unlike the typically open-ended shelters constructed by funnel webs, retains moisture exceptionally well, and allows trapdoor spiders to inhabit drier regions beyond the limits of funnel webs. And while funnel webs are principally confined to the east coast, trapdoor spiders range across the entirety of the continent. Next up is another of one of Australia's most infamous spiders, and one that many Aussies get especially opinionated about: Lampona, the white-tailed spider. Whitetails, in a nutshell, are kinda like the Australian version of North America's hobo spiders. Everyone you meet seems to have an anecdote about how their friends, cousins, aunts, sister-in-law read on Facebook that someone got bitten by one of these spiders and lost a hand, or lost a limb, or evaporated on the spot, or who knows what else. And just like with the hobo spider, there is no medical literature that backs up such claims, yet the idea continues to be perpetuated regardless. Whitetails are specialised predators of other spiders, with Badumna, the house spiders, being common targets. Their robust front legs are their trademark weapons, used for both plucking at their target's web in an attempt to lure it hence, and to physically overpower it in the ensuing brawl. But I must say, compared to some other spiders that specialise in hunting other spiders, the whitetail's adaptations are pretty bare bones. But the main reason I'm giving them a fairly low ranking is the aforementioned fact that their sole claim to fame in the public eye is something that isn't even true. Essentially, they're posers. Time to climb up into B tier, kicking it off with one of the most bizarre groups of spiders I've ever had the pleasure to encounter, the Dinopids, or Netcasting spiders. These mysterious denizens of the night employ one of the most remarkable hunting methods practiced by any spider. Having spent the day seamlessly camouflaged amongst the dense shrubbery of the forest floor, they spring into action under the cover of darkness, weaving a rectangular net that the spider holds stretched between its front legs, poised to cast it over any unwary victim that strays beneath it. Some members of the group, like a Janopus subrufa, possess astonishingly powerful eyes, all the more useful for making the most out of whatever scant traces of light remain in the spider's nighttime realm. However, being so marvellously adapted for a nocturnal lifestyle has its drawbacks. Come sunrise, these spiders digest the light-sensitive tissue in their eyes, effectively rendering themselves blind. They will be regenerated anew the following night, but in the meantime, The spider, with its greatly dampened senses, is in a rather compromised state, relying heavily on its camouflage to keep a low profile during this vulnerable period, until the daylight hours pass and the spider once more has the chance to venture forth and unleash its mastery of the moonlit world. Next up is another family of spiders that have perfected the art of ambush. They are the Thomisidae, or crab spiders. Crab spiders, at first glance, can appear a little goofy. Their movements are often very cumbersome, bordering on comical. But trust me when I say that crab spiders are not something to be underestimated. The phrase, pick on someone your own size, is not something that crab spiders appear to set much store by, for they quite regularly punch well above their weight, entrapping shockingly large prey items with their powerful front legs. And I'll say myself, there's been a few times when I've seen the aftermath of a crab spider hunt, and wondered how the hell such a slow, seemingly clumsy animal could have possibly pulled it off. Here, for example, a young Thomisus spectabilis has infiltrated the web of a Badamna, and subdued the occupant in the very centre of its own intricately tailored home. And, quite frankly, I think if I saw that hunt in action, I probably would have put these spiders in S tier, but until they decide to divulge their secrets, B tier it is. Now for a curious group of spiders called the Uloboridae. These are unique among spiders in that they are completely non-venomous, and while you might think that'd be a massive setback, mark my words, these spiders do not let something as trivial as lacking a trademark weapon used by basically all spiders get in their way. Indeed, anything unfortunate enough to fall prey to one of these cryptic little spiders may very well face a more grisly demise than mere lethal injection. For Uloborids tightly entomb their victims in silk, before dousing it in digestive fluids and slurping up the liquefied body. The only problem with this method is it may not be particularly effective against larger, stronger prey items that may require a dose of venom to bring down. And nor are their webs especially suited for capturing big game either, being rather weak and lacking the adhesive properties of many other spider webs. However, it's not like there's any shortage of suitably small prey items around to satiate the collective appetites of these spiders, and regardless of whatever shortcomings they may have, Uloborids are clearly a very successful group, even, or dare I say, especially in urban areas. I mean, just take a look at this little Uloborid metropolis right outside my workplace. Up next are the spider's ultimate heavyweights, the Theraphosidae, or tarantulas. The spider world is awash with unique adaptations and remarkable specializations, but sometimes a simpler approach to life in the wilderness works just as well. Like, for example, being really fucking big and throwing your weight around. As far as tarantulas go, Australian species are... okay, there's no beating about the bush here. Boring as shit. If anyone were to ever write a book on Australian tarantulas, I would recommend 50 Shades of Brown as a title, and that'd actually be overselling them. But drab and unimpressive as they are, there's no denying that Australian tarantulas, just like tarantulas elsewhere in the world, are good at what they do. Compared to other mygalomorph spiders like trapdoors and funnel webs, tarantulas are quite mobile, and their enormous size puts them about as high up on the food chain as any spider could hope to be. They have also managed to occupy a wide range of habitats, from the wet tropics of North Queensland to the baking deserts at the very centre of the country. All in all, while Australian tarantulas are pretty unnoteworthy compared to many of their counterparts overseas, by Australia's meagre standards I'd say they're fairly high tier. Now we move into A tier, kicking it off with one of the most familiar of all household spiders, the pholcids, sometimes known as daddy longlegs. It's worth noting that the common name daddy longlegs also refers to another group of arachnids called the opiliones, or harvestmen, which, unlike pholcids, are not actually spiders. Of course, given this is a spider tier list, I won't be talking about them. Pholcids are a textbook example of how looks can be deceiving. What appears to be quite a frail, delicate creature is, in fact, an incredibly proficient hunter. And it's the spider's spindly build that is the key to its success. With their long legs, falsids are able to wrap their prey in silk while keeping their body at a safe distance, allowing them to restrain larger, more dangerous adversaries with minimal risk of retribution. They also make for a commendable household pest control service, and they're completely free of charge to boot. All in all, these spiders are hard not to appreciate. We now go from one of the most familiar indoor spiders to some of the most familiar outdoor spiders, the Araneads, occasionally dubbed the typical orb weavers. Araneads are not only extremely abundant and successful spiders, a near constant presence in practically every environment this country has to offer, they are also endowed with a level of diversity that seems to know no bounds, exhibiting a marvellous array of shapes, sizes and colours. Their function varies almost as much as their form, while many construct the quintessential orb web that has come to exemplify the spider's unparalleled mastery of silk. Some are a little more unique. Members of the Suonatore, a subfamily of the Araneae, construct wondrously intricate, three-dimensional webs that are not only a marvellous sight to behold, but offer excellent protection for the resident spider, obstructing approach from almost any direction. On the other end of the spectrum, Selenia excavata, one of the strangest of the Araneads, has little use for webbing at all, instead hunting in a very similar manner to crab spiders. It also goes without saying, given how widely utilised it is, that the classic orb web is a true force of nature in the hunting arena. A device that simultaneously keeps its occupants safe from almost all potential threats outside of a few specialists, and captures prey with minimal effort from the spider itself. Plus, given Australia's ever-worsening housing situation, the ability to literally pull a safe and highly functional home out of your ass for free goes a long way. Finishing off A tier, we have the Pisaridae, or nursery web spiders. Like the Araneads, these are a very diverse group, especially in terms of lifestyle. Perhaps the best known are the fishing spiders from the genera Dolomedes and Megadolomedes, which effectively use bodies of water as their own pre-made webs, as the water's surface tension can both capture any unfortunate insects that fall on it and alert the spider to their presence by transferring the vibrations generated by their struggles. Convenient and innovative as the fishing life doubtless appears to be, Pisarids are by no means limited to it. Other members of the group, like Hygropoda lineata, an exceedingly common species in the rainforests of North Queensland, instead reside on a flat web spun across the surface of a leaf. But of all the Pisarids that occur in Australia, few stand out to me more than my most common local species, Dendrolycosa icadia. These spiders spin expansive, sheet-like webs amongst the foliage of trees and shrubs, at the centre of which is a deep funnel that the spider resides in. They are very prolific. Sometimes a single small tree can bear a miniature metropolis of Dendrolycosa webs. The spiders themselves are well protected. Not only can they dart into their central retreat at the slightest hint of danger, the entire web is surrounded by a loose tangle of silk, which provides a barrier to potential attackers approaching from practically any direction. Regardless of whether they hunt on water, on leaves, or within the confines of an intricate silken fortress, Pisarids are all swift, fleet-footed spiders that can pounce on their prey in the blink of an eye, and disappear from sight in an instant should they feel their lives are at risk. They truly are all-terrain extraordinaires. Finally, we arrive at S tier, the spiders that to me stand out beyond all the rest. Starting off the 8-legged elite club, we have the Nephilidae, or golden orb weavers. These gentle giants of the spider world have had a bit of an identity crisis over the years, with successive publications going back and forth on whether these spiders constituted their own family, or formed a subfamily within the Araneae. Until rather recently, the latter was the case, with golden orb weavers forming the subfamily Nephilidae, though as of 2023, they are once again regarded as their own separate family. These spiders spin enormous webs with a stunning golden sheen, and such webs are not just a pretty sight either. They are among the strongest constructed by any spider. But the impressiveness of the web pales in comparison to the sheer splendour of the spider itself. Golden orb weavers are the largest of all the orb-weaving spiders, with some species exceeding 15 centimetres across. The enormity of these spiders, combined with the size and strength of their webs, renders them capable of capturing and subduing all manner of prey items, including small vertebrates like birds and bats. They also frequently capture the invasive European honeybees, which is an instant bonus in my book because fuck honeybees. Wasps and native bees are the real MVPs. And while many animals may struggle to eke out a living in suburbia, golden orb weavers not only survive but thrive amid human habitation. One species, Trichonephila plumipes, has been noted to fare considerably better in urban landscapes, namely being able to reproduce more frequently and rapidly than in less developed locations. And even at the very heart of our concrete jungles, it's far from rare to see not only individual spiders, but enormous aggregations comprising numerous interconnected webs, sometimes including the tent spider Cytophora malacensis as well. And though a conglomerate of Trichonephila webs may be a somewhat intimidating sight, you really couldn't ask for a better outdoor pest control service. Like basically every group of spiders I've covered, golden orb weavers are not by any means restricted to Australia, being found in tropical and subtropical regions across the globe. And spectacular as the Aussie species are, their cousins in Africa outclass them in practically every aspect. Now we come to what are probably the most popular of all spiders, the Salticidae, better known as jumping spiders. For any arachnophobes embarking on the daunting journey to overcome their fear, jumping spiders are the perfect gateway spider. With their squat, compact bodies, fluffy appearance and often rather endearing movements, plus a level of character and personality far beyond their miniature size, jumping spiders are well suited to becoming the first disclaimer on an arachnophobe's kill list. I hate spiders turns into I hate spiders but, and once you make even one exception, the dam is set to burst sooner or later. In addition to being an excellent PR asset for spiders as a whole, jumping spiders are immensely successful animals in their own right. Their apparent personality is no coincidence, for they are the brainiacs of the spider world. The jumping spider's smarts are complemented by their acute sense of vision, among the best out of any spider, which they use to lethal effect when stalking their prey through the complex, multi-dimensional realm of the undergrowth. Of course, no video discussing jumping spiders could go without mention of their namesake ability, jumping. With a spring of their stubby legs, they can cover distances of over 30 times their own length in a single bound, perfect for both eluding predators in a pinch and closing the distance on prey. This seamless blend of brains and athletic prowess has certainly served jumping spiders well. They are ubiquitous across almost every terrestrial habitat imaginable, and are the most speciose of all spider families. Indeed, they alone comprise around 13% of known spiders. Finishing off S tier, and this video as a whole, we have a family of spiders that I'm sure none but the very newest of my viewers will need any introduction to. The Sparacidae, or as often called in Australia, huntsmen, though they may go by other names in overseas localities. In the Americas, for example, they frequently get referred to as giant crab spiders, and in Africa they're called rain spiders. Huntsmen vary in size, from scarcely wider than your fingernail to being some of the biggest non-tarantula spiders on the planet. And while their enormity is often exaggerated, sometimes to ridiculous extents, there's no denying that a big huntsman can be a spectacular sight to behold. The largest Australian species, Typostola barbata and Berigama aurea, both regularly exceed 15 centimetres across, and can sometimes approach 20 centimetres. Though huntsmen can be found the world over, I think it's fair to say that the relationship we Aussies have with these hairy housemates is something special. The nature of that relationship varies from person to person, but one thing it never is ambivalent. They are either nightmarish monsters in miniature, or not so miniature, or regarded as unofficial pets, even to the point of earning them the endearing nickname of wall puppies. At least one lunatic even presents videos with a huntsman on his face. Not quite sure I'm willing to go as far as that guy though. And even if huntsmen have an obvious scare factor over jumping spiders, I can attest from personal experience that they make similarly great ambassadors for their eight-legged kin, especially in the context of educational demonstrations. For years, huntsmen have been my main assets when helping people face their fears and view these and spiders as a whole in a more positive light. Though nothing but timid, gentle giants to humans, huntsmen are predators to be feared in the bug world. A lethal combination of speed and their often large size renders them capable of subduing a wide variety of prey items. They are also quite a versatile group, though they don't vary too much in terms of behaviour, favouring a simple wait, pounce and bite approach to hunting. Huntsmen are nevertheless able to survive in almost every habitat this country has to offer, and a walk around the bush at night will leave you with little doubt of how prolific they can be. As far as I'm concerned, even if huntsmen are found overseas too, and Asian huntsmen probably have ours beat in terms of both size and diversity, no other continent truly owns these spiders like Australia. In my obviously humble and completely unbiased opinion, huntsmen are the Australian spider, and I can't think of a better choice with which to crown off this list and finally finish the video. So there we have it. If your favourite spiders were omitted, I apologise. But this video was already shaping up to be very long, and even when focusing only on spiders I have personally encountered and filmed, I still had to cut a few entries. If you'd like to hear me recount some of my more memorable experiences with our arachnid friends, then take a look at this video wherein I reminisce about my 5 most noteworthy spider encounters. And if you want to see wild huntsmen in their full glory, then take a look at what this short night walk yielded. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you next time.